Hi, I'm Jonathan and welcome to B-Movie Madness. If you didn't know, a Fantastic Four movie came out this week, a reboot of the 2005 and 2007 Fantastic Four movies that Tim Story directed. This was a big, gritty, dark reboot, directed by Josh Trank, who did Chronicle, which I absolutely loved. If you follow me on Facebook, you know I've been extremely vocal about how much I just did not want to see this movie. I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. I've been a Fantastic Four fan since I was a kid. But this movie just looked all kinds of wrong. So the critical, I think it got like 9% critical reaction and a 25% audience reaction, and only made $26 million opening weekend. That's really bad for a comic book movie. And it's not surprising because it just looked wrong. Everything from the casting to the tone of it looked wrong. And I'm not talking about the casting of Johnny Storm. I'm talking about the age of everybody. Well, mainly the age of Reed Richards and Ben Grimm, which is they were too young, in my opinion. And Doom looked horrible. I wasn't looking forward to it, and I probably will never watch it because life's too short to watch, everything. But I was requested to do a review, a Fantastic Four review, and it was for the unreleased 1994 Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie. And if you don't know, in the early 90s or something, I think Corman's company, New Horizons, got the rights to the Fantastic Four movie, and they had to do it by a certain time, or they'd lose the rights. So they had to do it quickly and cheaply. So they did it for $1 million. Unknown to the cast and crew, there was no plans to ever release the movie. They had no idea all this work they put into this movie would never be seen. The funny thing is, this movie had posters made. There was advertisements in Wizard and everything. And not only that, as a horror fan, I was a big horror fan, so I rented every single horror movie that came out as a kid. And I rented Carnosaur, which was Roger Corman's kind of like dinosaur movie to compete with Jurassic Park. And before Carnosaur began, there was a trailer for the Fantastic Four. As a kid, I was like, oh my god. I didn't do that. I was like, oh my god, Fantastic Four has a movie. I was so excited. I waited. Waited, and it never came out. And it wasn't until about the early 2000s, because I didn't have internet back in the early 90s. I didn't think we started getting really internet until like the mid to late 90s, more later 90s. That I had a friend who owned a comic book shop, and he owned a pawn shop comic book shop. There was half comic books, half pawn shop. And he told me, yeah, I seen it, and it sucks. He was telling me how much it sucked, and I was like, I don't care, I want to see it. He goes, yeah, there's a bootleg out there of it, so it was released through, somebody got a copy and leaked it out. He couldn't find it, so it wasn't until about 2 years later that I was able to talk to someone on the internet, and they sent me a VHS, a bootleg VHS of it. The quality was so bad that it was unwatchable, so it wasn't until a few years after that I downloaded a copy that would look much better than my VHS. That I was able to sit down and actually watch the movie and actually, give an opinion about it. If you talk to most people, everyone hates it. They call it cheap. It's dumb, cheap, dumb, and I run a channel that's dedicated to B movies. I don't care about cheap as long as it entertains me. And as a Fantastic Four fan and a B movie fan, I was really interested in watching this movie. And I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. What's funny is a lot of people have come out. I've actually talked to quite a few people who have come out and said they really enjoyed it as well. So I'm not the only one. The Red Letter Media, who they do the best of the worst and all that, they really liked it as well. I mean, they were surprised how much they liked it, how much fun it was, and it is a fun movie. It does feel like a Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, and that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, actually. But to me, the reason I liked it is it actually felt like a Fantastic Four movie. The Tim Story movies, they had stuff in it that reminded me of the Fantastic Four, but there was a lot of things that just didn't remind me at all of Fantastic Four. And if you watch the trailers for the new movie, that certainly doesn't look like Fantastic Four. The Roger Corman movie, despite its very low budget, feels like a Fantastic Four comic book come to life. Unfortunately, the budget does get in the way a lot of the times. And Red Letter Media says something interesting in their review. They said that Doctor Doom's voice, the movie felt like a work print, because his voice, it sounded like the on-set recording and not the not ADR like they would do later. They would put a different voice, and some of the special effects, in my opinion, felt unfinished. So a copy that leaked out could be a work print. Well, no one really knows. It has end credits or has opening credits and end credits. There's no timer or anything, so it could just be like a late work print. Like I don't know. Maybe it was just before they pulled the plug. But the movie is cheap. There's some shots where you can tell they reuse special effects, or they use special effects shots, like when I think the Invisible Girl's throwing like invisible shit and all that. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I remember a lot of it. But there's some shots that they use to reuse special effects shots and all that. But considering the time and the low budget they had, it's not really surprising. Roger Corman would do that a lot. Anybody who's a Roger Corman fan knows that he's reused this castle shot from, I think, The Terror. I'm not quite sure at the movie. The castle shot with the lightning bolt. He used that in a million movies that he's produced. A million of them. So it's not surprising he would reuse shots. The cast, for the most part, I don't really recognize anybody. The only person I actually really recognized was Jay Underwood, who plays the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. He was in some Disney Channel movies from back in the day called Not Quite Human. Alex Hyde White, I remember him from Phantom of the Opera, the Robert Englund Phantom of the Opera. He was one of the leads in that. And the guy who played Ben Grimm, who I cannot remember his name whatsoever, he's been in a million things. He's been in My Name, and he's been in a whole bunch of TV shows like My Name is Earl, but he was Pluto, I think it's Pluto, in the Hills Have Eyes remake, and he was Super Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street 5 when Freddy gets all superheroed out. He played Freddy in that. I don't recognize Sue Storm. I don't recognize the actor who played Dr. Doom. George Gaines from Police Academy has a very small role at the beginning, though. I did recognize him. Sorry, I got a burp. I'm trying to think of what to say about the movie. It just was a fun time. It felt like just an old school kind of like Roger Corman production, but it happened to be Fantastic Four. And you can tell the people who made the movie knew Fantastic Four. They didn't have a lot of money to do a big story. Because that's one thing you'll say about the movie. The movie does feel a lot smaller than it should, but considering the money, it's only 90 minutes. So there's not a lot of action. Mainly the action is in the last third act of the movie. That's when all the action happens. The first part is them getting their powers, finding out what happened to Doom, and that he's just the ruler of Latveria. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Latveria. He's the ruler of Latveria, and eventually they have to fight him. I think Doom looked awesome as he looked like Doom. I hated how he looked in the Tim Story movies, and he looks even worse in the Josh Trank movie. But I think he looked cool here. His voice could have been better. I mean, you could tell that. I'm hoping they were planning on redoing it, but no one really knows. The Fantastic Four costumes look cheap, but they look just fine by me. I mean, they look like Fantastic Four. At least they're proud to wear them outfits, unlike the new one, which they're wearing these black contamination outfits or some shit. But some of the special effects work was good. I think the Thing looked fantastic. I think the makeup for him looked actually really good, especially for their budget. It looked really good. I would say I liked it a little bit more than the Tim Story movies. I really liked the makeup in the Tim Story movies for the Thing. It looks certainly better than that CGI Dickless thing that they made for the reboot. I hate it. That thing looks so stupid. Need a drink. The music, I think, were recycled cues from a lot of other movies, so I can't really comment about that. It sounded good. Some of the stretching effects were really cheap, you could tell that it just, did like a broom or some shit, There's one shot at the end of the movie when Doom is outside of his castle, and there's an overhead shot of Reed Richards approaching him, and he punches him. You actually see the arm stretch with the actor in the same shot. They don't cut away to a thing stretching, and you see him punch Doom in the face in the overhead shot. That looked really cool. I remember seeing that whenever I first saw a good copy of it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it did feel like something that he could build a franchise out of, maybe with more money. And I think this would have done well in theaters. Not maybe great, like not nearly as maybe great, or not even as well as like maybe the Superman movies, or definitely not Tim Burton's Batman, because at the time I think, yeah, Batman Returns were out. So I don't think it did as good as that, but I think it would have done not that bad. It would have definitely made back its $1 million budget easily. So they should have released it. I don't know why Marvel was so depressed about it. I mean, although I can understand. That's the funny thing is, the Marvel's state of films at the time, they had Howard the Duck, which was a box office bomb. They put so much money in that movie and it bombed horribly. And then they put money into a Captain America movie, which ultimately they were so embarrassed by they just sent it straight to video. Same with Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie, which I really liked the Dolph Lundgren Captain America movie. I don't care for that at all, but I really liked the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie. And I feel the same about it, the Fantastic Four one. I really don't see why they just didn't at least release it straight to video, because look, it found a life anyways. Somebody put it out there. When I went to a convention about 9 years ago, my first and only convention I ever went to, because I don't have enough money to go these days. There's tables with piles and piles and piles of DVDs of the Fantastic Four Roger Corman one, because people want to see it. People are curious about it. I mean, as a kid, even if I wasn't into Fantastic Four, I would have been curious about it because it's a lost movie. It was an unreleased movie. That would have interested me, regardless of, like the Jerry Lewis movie, The Day the Clown Cried. I have no interest in that kind of movie, but fuck me, man, I want to see that movie simply because they don't want me to see it. And today I just heard that they're going to do a screening of it 10 years from now, so I'm looking forward to that. So in this day and age of these comic books, I'm surprised this movie hasn't got a better release. From what I heard, the original print was destroyed maybe by one of the people at Marvel. I don't know. Because I don't see why, if it wasn't destroyed, why it hasn't gotten a DVD or a Blu-ray release. Because, I mean, the Captain America movie from 1990 got a release on Blu-ray. That movie sucks. Of course, people think Fantastic Four 94 sucks, but I'm strange. I don't know why I just fucking did that. I really don't. I'm not high, I swear. Not high at all. But what else can I really say about this? Excuse me again. I just really enjoyed Fantastic Four 94. I think it's just a fun, colorful, very fast-paced comic book movie that feels true to its source, unlike the other Fantastic Four movies, which kind of took this and this and this and this. This one actually feels like a Fantastic Four comic come to life, and that's why I really enjoyed it. Despite its low budget, it was just a fun comic book movie. And I really hope it actually gets a good release one day. That would be fucking killer if it did. So, all I can really say is, do I recommend it? If you're into B movies, if you love Roger Corman, check it out. I mean, you can just go on YouTube and watch the full movie right now. If you want to download it, there's probably torrent sites that have it. But that's all I can really say. I recommend watching it. And I'm Jonathan. It's been B Movie Madness. Thanks for watching.
It's problem time.
are such things as dreams are made on.